All right. Well, hello. October is here. Every month this comes, I'm like, is it another month? What the heck is happening? All right. It's ridiculous. All right, so something we thought about chatting about kind of came up recently. Just sort of a lot of similarities between us as attorneys, you guys as agents. Obviously, we both represent clients, but the nature of that representation is a little bit different. Obviously, real estate brokers and licensees, you guys have a governing body, DPOR through the real estate board. Attorneys, we are, our governing body is the Supreme Court of Virginia, which is then through the Virginia State Bar. So that's kind of who our governing body is. Complaints can be made to, that sort of thing. The representation of clients as real estate brokers, you guys have agency relationships with your clients, and that can be standard or limited, dual. So there's variations within that. As attorneys, we represent clients as advocates, counselors, advisors, sometimes serving as mediators or third-party neutrals. And the reason I bring this up is sometimes what we'll have is conflicts of interest, and as attorneys, that is the Virginia State Bar. We've got ethics rules that mandate how we handle certain situations and when conflicts arise. Anytime you have a client on opposite sides of a transaction, that is a conflict of interest. Within law firms, we can't designate attorneys, so we can't have, Austin will handle this client and then Susan will represent the client on the other side. The conflict is imputed to the entire firm, even if it's somebody I don't have any.
That's good to know, because we can do designated things within our relationships here, but you guys cannot designate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. It was well, and it depends. Transactional is a bit different. We can handle both sides of a real estate
With
closing.
agreement from all parties in writing.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Got it.
And as long as there's, if we reasonably believe we can give competent and diligent representation to each client, as long as everybody consents to it,
Makes sense.
in what you may have heard me say this to folks, if at some point in the transaction a dispute were to arise, the parties kind of come head to head on an issue, PICRA repairs or what have you, we would be prohibited in that event to just sort of advocate on either one of them. So that's something I try to give everybody at the beginning, like, hey, just so you know.
In that case, do you dissolve with both parties, or does whoever comes to you first with the problem get to stay? They both gotta go?
We can't help either party
Okay.
sort of work out the dispute. We can still handle the closing, and if, hopefully the agents are able to kind of work it out. But I mean, if you've come to fisticuffs, then yeah, obviously we're not gonna be able to help either party. Absolutely.
And then they both find their own
Absolutely. Yeah.
to come back to the meeting of the minds.
And that's
Okay.
something too. I mean, a lot of you guys already know this. I mean, we've tried to be fair with, how we handle the contracts that come in, because sometimes it does happen where it's like, oh, we get a contract from somebody, hey, we want you guys to handle our side, and then a little bit later, hey, we want you to handle our side, and the agents haven't really talked about it, like in the negotiation phase, that hey, actually we want to have Jones Walker Lake handle this thing. So what I've told folks is, to try to be fair anyway, we've said, well, we got to try to pick somebody, and there are some instances where it's like, okay, we've represented this one client over and over and over again. We've got a long-term relationship with them. We try to go first come, first serve. But, if you do have an instance like that, I mean, we're going to prefer, obviously, you guys, having worked with y'all a lot. But I think it's good just to go ahead and have that conversation with the other side pretty early on. Like, hey, this is who we're thinking about closing with, just checking. And you all don't hold EMDs, right? Or do you?
No,
Okay, all right.
never.
So I think that probably.
You hold our EMDs.
That probably starts the conversation when the contract said Jones Walker Lake there is the escrow agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But often
I refuse to hold them. I did.
yeah,
It's
and
too
that's
much.
probably smart.
It's
I
too
mean,
much.
you do see it where it's on, being held by some other agency. In that case, it may not come up in conversation. And so if we have to try to pick a side, I mean, we generally try to go with the first come, first serve. So that's why, have the conversation early. If you don't, send it to us as soon as you can. Some folks say, well, I'll just wait until after the PICRA to send it over. Like, just get it over.
That's why I tell you guys, when you have a listing, even if you don't have a contract on it, send it over because we want first dibs,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
I mean, I hate to say it like that, but it's
Oh,
truly
yeah,
what it is,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
So if you have a listing, the minute you have the listing paperwork signed, that's a contract, send it over. And then whatever buyer comes and goes, we have representation from JWS.
it can't hurt you, it can only help.
I've
Yeah.
actually lost, I mean, I had to use somebody else once because somebody else
Got
sent
there
their
first,
contract
yeah.
immediately into your office and
Yeah,
Karen said, I'm sorry, we can't.
I know.
Breaks my heart.
It does, yeah.
My
I
heart.
wanna.
I hated it.
You may or may not be the favorite.
We don't know, that's not true, that's not true. So, and then there are some instances where, you know, if there's a risk of our representation will be materially limited by our responsibilities to another client, then that could be an instance, so. Easy example, if I'm personally buying property, I should obviously not represent the seller due to my own kind of personal interest in that transaction. Another example that's come up, so if we've represented a particular flipper on several transactions, and maybe we've had, you know, mechanics liens on a couple of properties we know about from this flipper, maybe we've heard complaints that this flipper doesn't do a great job, you know. I'd like to say we don't represent anybody who doesn't do a great job and doesn't do everything, but you know, at the end of the day, we are operating a business, we're trying to help folks, and so it does happen where maybe some folks aren't as, maybe they cut corners, and we know that, and if you were to bring us a buyer in that instance, wanting to buy this flipper's home, then, you know, in that case, if we know that, hey, there could be some issue down the line, especially if this buyer wants to try to enforce something against this seller or what have you, we may have to say, you know, hey, sorry, we can't help you out in this instance, so don't, and conflicts rules would prevent us from telling you that that's why too, like, hey, we know this guy does a shoddy job, like, you know, we're not gonna be able to say that, so. There are some instances like that where we are conflicted out.
Shelley has a question. Shelley, go ahead and
Yeah.
unmute.
Yeah, I was
Shelley?
just wondering how it works in a designated agency situation, where it's two of us from the same brokerage, representing either the buyer or the seller.
First come, first served.
Yeah, usually it's gonna be first come, first serve unless it's some extenuating circumstances on that, so get it
Okay.
over. Yeah.
I mean, of course, if everybody agrees, like we said, then it's
Yeah.
fine, but.
Yeah, and I think you guys probably get a sense too, like if you're working with somebody who's a nervous Nelly versus like somebody who's seasoned, I mean, I think there's gonna be instances where you know, like, hey, they can handle both sides of this transaction, and you know, we're not gonna probably have any issues. That kind of rolls into attorney-client privilege, though. Sometimes there are, you know, if there's discussions that we have with the clients. You know, we're obviously prohibited from sharing that information with you. I mean, if it happens in your presence, obviously that's a different thing. There is the privilege is waived if it's, you know, on a call with everybody or you're in the room with them. But you know, there are some instances where maybe the client shares something with us where we would be prohibited from sharing that information with you. And then, you know, sometimes a tricky situation can happen where, let's say you brought us a buyer and then they default. Well, you're entitled to your commission in that instance. But if we've represented that buyer in the transaction, we would be prohibited from suing them for, I don't know if you guys ever sue folks for commissions. That ever happen? Is
Try
that?
to avoid it.
Yeah,
Trying to
sure.
do
it's
my
not a
best to
pleasant
not, I'm
situation.
not in the
Yeah.
business of trying to sue people anyway.
Sure.
But, most of my agents, they're also not in that business. I'm saying most, like, I mean, like 99%,
Yeah.
they don't wanna sue
Sure.
another party. But
Tough.
we are very good at being upfront as exactly what's going on. Now, in North Carolina, it's a little different. So North Carolina, it's already written in the contract
Oh,
that you get your commission, like that ratio.
Cool.
Now, we have enforced the contract in North Carolina, and we have received commission in North Carolina when someone has backed out of a contract multiple times. So, but it's written in the contract, so
Yeah.
it's it's pretty nice. I wish Virginia was the same way, but it's literally written in that if you back out the contract, that you actually, and so it's easy to say, take it to your attorney,
mhm.
right? And they take it, and they're like, you owe it. You're the one who signed it. So North Carolina's a little different, but Virginia, no.
Yeah.
And North
Well,
Carolina, it's not a suit thing.
Do you
It's
think that
just
would
that
happen?
we're abiding by the contract.
Would that ever happen in Virginia, do you think?
oh, I mean, it does. I mean, we.
No, I mean like that language.
No.
translated.
No, I do not feel it's gonna happen in my lifetime.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear though that the agents are entitled to the commission if somebody were to default under the contract. And so we've seen several instances where we had a recent case where a listing agent, the buyer backed out, and this listing agent went ahead and sold that home to somebody else. Same price, same commission. They still sued the buyer as a result of the default and got a judgment against the buyer for the commission they would have gotten on the sale of that home.
Okay,
Which
so-
I don't think is right. I don't think it's right. I think they got paid, but a judge was like, hey, no, I think they're entitled to.
I
the
would, I
commission.
could see the buyer having to pay the difference between what they
I
would
could
have
too.
gotten
Yeah, sure.
and what they did get,
Yeah.
but
So
Yeah.
crazy,
I'm
'cause if
surprised the
buyer
judge
tries to
would do
fight
that
it and go back
and
and
pay for
forth, they're gonna be
That's
out
setting a
probably more
dangerous
than the
precedent.
commission.
Well, yeah, and I mean, they spent probably $8,000 to bring this case and it's been appealed.
That's
So,
what I mean,
it's-
they're spending, this, is that
It-
principle.
spending all
Yeah, the only
money.
winner is the lawyer in that
Yeah.
instance,
Unless
but
it's like a 750,000 plus day
Sure.
deal, then,
Yeah.
yeah.
no, you gotta have $1.5 million by the time you get. your-
You gotta love Austin. What other attorney says
That's
the only
crazy.
winner is the.
well, hey, yeah,
Just
it's
Austin.
unfortunate, but that,
Prove that.
if it goes to litigation, usually
That's
All
everybody.
that time and headache, and you still got a commission.
And you could be busy out selling 6 more houses while you're dealing with all that garbage
Right?
Yeah,
and the drain on your emotional.
The emotional drain.
What's the emotional drain though? Cause they've already won. They literally already won. They already sold the one property.
Still,
There's-
Yeah, but it's being
litigation
appealed.
still
It
emotionally
takes a
draining,
toll.
no matter what it is.
So messed up.
Yeah.
yeah, so just heads up on that anyways.
That's-
Obviously, if we're not handling
Life's too short.
if we're not handling the contract, if you for some reason didn't send it over to us and then you have somebody default and you want us to sue for a commission, we will do that.
Then you
So,
can.
Just saying.
So
We
you
will-
want, if you
we
want
will
to say
do
I
it.
made a mistake, now I need you.
Like, okay, we'll send it over, hey, we'll sue them for you and, obviously litigation's kind of tricky, but.
Litigation
Um,
is tricky.
And that kind of brings up another, so just this past week, I had 2 different buyers that did not put in their EMD within that 2-day time period. On the front page of the contract, and so we had conversations, and that was the first time I'd ever really noticed the language in there, that if that happens and the seller releases because of that, it says that neither the seller or buyer will have any further liability to each
Right.
other.
Right.
Which is interesting because any other defaults under the contract, your buyer could be looking at other damages if the seller has to try to
Yeah.
sell the property for less or whatever.
Yes,
So
well, I think they figure 48 hours, not a whole lot.
exactly, yeah, just that, but it doesn't say against the agents though. So agents are still entitled to the commission under that instance,
Huh.
which is interesting. So yeah, that, another something to just sort of have a conversation with us about. If you've got a buyer in that situation that maybe got cold feet, is now wanting to start to think about things. Or even a seller that's like, hey, thinking about going ahead and releasing in that instance. Well, hey, maybe not. Maybe we need to wait till we get a little further down before we terminate it so that you can get your other remedies under this contract for that attorney's fees, damages. So anyway, but
Yeah.
well, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Any other
Um,
questions?
I do have one, well, not a question, but I do want to say something. So we had an agent who had turned in a sell side. And they said, make sure we get credit for it,
Oh, yeah.
which, and I think it was Karen. Said, it doesn't matter. Sell side doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter. So the reason it matters is just because we don't get any money off of the sell side, it still matters because of trackability. Like I want to make sure that we are sending everything over there so that I know what's going on. We definitely want to, I don't care that I don't make any money off of it, it still needs to go over there. It 100% matters. So what she was meaning is as far as tracking for financials, because on the listing side, we don't make any money. I mean, that's just how it works. All the money goes towards exactly what there's no money to be made there. We keep it low so that everybody can use them, but it does matter. So don't misconstrue that. It just means that we don't make any money on it, and that's fine. I still want everything to go over there so that you guys have proper representation.
When you say you don't make any money on it, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not clear on what you're talking about.
Cause there's no title
There's
policy.
no title
The
policy.
buyers have to have a title policy.
That's the only
sellers
way
do
that
not.
they make
So
money
you
on.
do business disclosure that you have everybody sign, that is letting them know that we have that relationship.
Yeah,
With Tom Huck Title under Jones Walker and Lake,
right.
that we make money
Oh,
off of
title company.
the sale of that title
Yeah,
insurance.
so we split that. So that's a 50-50, but the other, there's no title. I
And
mean,
that's why you don't have to have sellers sign it, because there is no knowledge needed.
Yep, so that's what the joint venture of Tomahawk Title is, but that's not a here nor there as far as the sell side, like, it doesn't matter if anyone's making money, it matters that you have the right representation.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's still, I just don't want that to get misconstrued, because it was a little bit misconstrued.
Sometimes we need to tell a buyer to govern themselves accordingly.
Sometimes you got,
Now, you know, maybe we can get it to
Get in.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it may be a lot of the times I might think, so. You do have to say govern yourself accordingly sometimes.
She's back there going, awesome.
Right, I know. Does anyone have any questions, online? Just want to make sure, for Austin. Anything quirky,
That was
crazy?
fabulous information, thank you.
Yeah, that was
Thank you.
really good info. Thank you so much.
I love it when I learn things.
Round of applause for Austin. Thank you so much. Yeah, really appreciate it. All right, Captain Mortgage, you're up.
How's everybody doing?
Hey,
Good, good. It's much easier to come behind Austin when he's in office as opposed to just on a Zoom call talking about legal stuff, because we all know it's like legal stuff puts most of us to sleep. Unless you're like Lucy and you love law and contracts and all the things.
White,
Yeah. So,
I don't try the great stuff, it's not good.
yeah, the first thing that people ask, obviously, how are rates? What are rates today? So, you know, it's always a great conversation. It's a conversation starter too, because it's obviously what everybody's talking about. So keep that in mind when these things come up. Feel free to reach out to me, and those of you online as well, feel free to reach out to me. If you get into a conversation with somebody at a bar or at your house or friend, family, whatever, associate, say, hey, what are rates today? So feel free to reach out and I can give you a nice little blanket answer for you on what that is. It's been a big hot button topic over the last, I don't know, 2-3 years. Anyway, so keep that in mind. Next up, so classes. I wanted to put it out there, like, what classes would you all like to have? Because at the end of the day, I can try and come up with cool stuff or stuff that'll make you want to come. But like, what classes do you want to see? Like, we did a 1031 a while back. That was pretty popular. You know, we've done non-QM stuff. Those were pretty popular, but like, what additional stuff would you like to see? Because we have partners that do these, you know, real estate CE classes. I know, I almost said Prosper. I know Evertree. I know Evertree has been a great partner with us in the past to do like real estate agent CE classes to get, you know, 1 or 2 credit hours, right, Sarah? So things like that. What do you want to see? So feel free to reach out to me directly, or if you want, just raise your hand now and I'll take a quick note. I mean, if you have anything that's top of mind right now for that, anyone online, feel free. Next up, I may have mentioned,
1031 exchange again.
we can do that. Okay.
The 1031 exchange is really good.
Yeah, it's a great
And then
class.
the, with Britton Crest, the appraiser.
Okay, appraiser class, that's good. Not everybody at one time. Just kidding. Thank you for that. Those are great. Those are great ideas. Yeah, yeah.
It's just me.
The voice. Sure,
Yes, that would be awesome.
sure. What do you want to beat up an underwriter for an hour? I'm
Understand.
I don't mean that literal. Just like hit him with questions. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I do not have the level.
Yeah, ask an underwriter. Let's get that
Yeah.
one on there.
And I wanna know, I wanna see what they're looking at. And
Anybody online, y'all can type it in, I'll tell him.
That's a good one. That's not a surprise, but that's a good one.
That'd be
I
really good.
just wanna know.
Yeah.
I wanna know what they're looking at. I wanna know what that money's gotta sit
You
there
always
for
wanna
doing
know.
manual
Yeah.
underwriting.
You always
So-
wanna know.
As underwriters are a little bit like attorneys, they try to do what's called plausible deniability. So they will sometimes give you a political answer, meaning this is the answer, but it's up for interpretation, especially on government loans, especially on VA and FHA. These government guidelines are really written semi-gray. Like I learned stuff the other day, you know, and people can judge me on it all they want, but I didn't know that you only needed 1 month of bank statements on a government loan. I never knew that. You need 2. We always ask for 2. That's always been the blanket, right? So like I said, you can judge me or anybody can judge me all they want, but it's kind of like a fun fact, right? And that's why I say we're always learning. So that's what I'm saying, like,
perfectly qualified borrower, but if I have a crappy qualified borrower that's gonna end up
And
with a
that-
manual underwrite, they
kinda
can go back
surprises
at
me.
12 whole
Yeah.
months.
Or like if you have non-sufficient funds, underwriters don't like to see when your balance on your one bank statement that we get has a zero balance or a minus whatever, right?
When I did my refi, they wanted 3 months.
Well, was it a government loan?
Yeah,
No,
Well-
yeah, VA.
why, what, where, when, how long?
Just
With-
Once again-
With 830 credit scores.
Once again,
Depends on the.
it is a refinance. Were you getting any money out?
Well, yeah.
Well, if you were getting money out, the only thing I can think of is you maybe had a high debt to income ratio and they needed reserves in the file. But even 3 months is more than what we would need. So maybe that's their blanket, like my blanket forever has been 2 months, right?
Okay.
Um,
Well, it was
the only time,
3 years ago.
my next question is, are you self-employed? Because sometimes they want to see
They could have been
self-employed,
Changed.
you know,
just
they
the
want to see
deal.
self-employed whenever you're, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just, she said it was 3 years ago. I said it could have been different 3 years ago.
Cor- That is very true.
That's
There's been,
like right after COVID.
for
you
sure,
know?
COVID guidelines, for sure. And honestly, some of the government, FHA and VA have kind of backed off on some of their COVID guidelines that they put in place.
So it was 21, you know?
Correct. But that, my point is, when you're self-employed, sometimes they want to see, like the blanket statement is we need to see 3 months of bank statements from your business, right? So that they always ask for more in hopes that we can at least get what we'd like. So I have a client right now who literally gave me 2 months of bank statements. And the one from August has NSFs, non-sufficient funds. So I trash can those and I said, just give me your savings account for September, showing that $2,500 in that account. We'll call it a day. Because at the end of the day, the underwriter is gonna beat us up about, you know, non-sufficient funds and potentially not make it, turn it into a manual or something along those lines. Because they don't want to see that. They don't want to see NSFs. What that means is you don't know how to
Manager.
manage your money and manage your accounts and all the things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great. Good job. Gold star. Get her a bottle of wine, somebody.
Somebody, if he looks at me, me, ask somebody, I have to give her a bottle of wine. I was gonna say, I'll get you some. some vodka.
So, one last thing,
Okay.
one last thing. So we did, I think I mentioned this before, but we got floor seats for the ODU women's basketball, which is kind of cool. As we all know, women's basketball is kind of taken over. And actually they're more popular at ODU than the men's. Here recently, they have a really great coach. She's a gold medal winner, all the things, WNBA champion, the head coach at ODU, Delisha Milton-Jones. She's a personal friend of mine, and I think she's amazing. She's got a guy on her staff that she just hired. He played on a national championship team with Carmelo Anthony at Syracuse. I say these things because she has really good coaches. And he played, you know, professionally and all the things. So it's a great time. I say these things because keep your mind, your ears open. We're going to be raffling off some of these games for you all. We have one Coastal Town game we're going to raffle off. That'll be fun. So like I said, keep an eye out on the Facebook page for those. We're just going to do a friendly raffle and call it a day. Other than that, hope to see y'all at
I have a
the
question before
Fall
you leave.
Fest.
Question.
You want floor seats?
No, no.
Just talk to me.
So in terms of rates, where they're going, is there any prognostication that you can do about people that are wondering about refinancing for 7.25%?
Yeah, it was like 3 weeks ago.
That's when they needed
100%.
to refinance.
100% they should have started 3 weeks ago.
So what is,
Or
in
like
your
September.
mind, where are we going with the rate?
So in the last 3 days, quite honestly, from Thursday, Friday, and then yesterday, we got beat. We got beat up. We probably, if you were at, let's just say you were at 5.5 on a VA loan on Thursday, you're probably close to 6 now in 3 days. Maybe not that, maybe 5.75. But my point is, in 3 days, we lost 3/8 of a point. That's an eighth of a point every day on average. Who knows what the rates will do? We have a election coming up in November, in case you didn't know. Yeah. No, but seriously, you have an election coming up in November, and that really moves rates. It moves the Dow, it moves the S&P, all these things, because the people in office wanted to make it seem like we're living some dream lifestyle.
So you don't have a thought.
It doesn't matter who's in office. I'm not taking a side, please.
So you don't have a thought on where we're going with the rates.
You know, the honest truth is it changes every day, to be honest with you. I mean,
I
We-
don't think anyone's going to be quite honest with you. I don't think anyone's going to have a thought about it until after the election.
Because
Because then we're gonna know more.
we progressively have came down of 1 point, easily 1 point or more from, we'll say, April, May until today. You know, and just because they've done a little uptick, it's, you know, it corrected itself a little bit. But who knows? There's another report coming out tomorrow that may say, oh, we love where the rates are going. And then we get another additional, you know, 1/4 point, and now we're not at 6 anymore. We're back at
So how
5.75.
much does the Fed have to do with real estate rates?
Are you talking about the Fed funds rate?
Yeah, I mean.
The
they
the
dropped
50
half a
basis
point.
points that everybody was talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, good question. So it has a relationship, but it's not a direct correlation. If you want to keep a more direct correlation, I've said this numerous times. Does anybody know what's a direct correlation?
It's the bonds, right?
10-year bond.
The 10-year bond, the treasury bonds, the 10-year and the 30-year treasury bonds. Anybody know why the 10 and 30-year treasury bonds are such a more direct correlation? Anyone?
It runs parallel, and that's the rates bank can borrow money at, and so they
Be-
make a profit and they lend it out for it. That's less.
Yes, and to put it in perspective, most mortgage rates are how many years? 30 years, 30-year treasury bond. Why do you think it would be 10 years? Because most people either refinance or sell in 10 years on average. So that's why they look at the 10-year and the 30-year treasury bond. So if you look at the treasury bonds, if the treasury bond's up, rates are up that day. If the treasury bond is down, rates are down that day. Now, I tell you this to empower you to have the understanding of what that means. However, don't share all these things with your clients because they're only going to make all of our lives more difficult. Because if they say, hey, I got under contract on Monday, we locked them in on Wednesday, we close in 2 weeks, and they say, hey, I saw the treasury bonds were down a day and a half before closing, and they're sitting at the closing table like, can I get a lower rate? I saw treasury bonds were down yesterday. See what I mean? They don't really understand the complexity of it all, of like how it really works. And I try to be as educational as possible when it comes to that.
They think everybody can hit a button and then.
I mean, quite honestly, after that 50-year or 50 basis points, myself and Courtney both had a phone call. One, her client was literally sitting at the closing table, called her and said, hey, I saw rates drop. I'm not even bullshitting you, straight up. I had another client, my client called the day of closing. They just went and did their walkthrough. Super nice. She said, hey, we saw rates drop. Can we get a lower rate? I said, no, ma'am, we're closing today. It's actually not possible. The only way for us to do that is to extend your closing date, and we'll close in like 3 days. So keep that in mind. It's to empower you so you understand where rates are if you want to get that
So we're at
nerdy
6
and look
now.
at.
For 30 years.
I'd say VA, we're touching 6, low 6s, high 5s, VA or conventional, probably mid 6s, mid to low 6s, depending. If they want to buy a little bit, then yeah, we can get you lower. I mean, if you're a VA and a strong bar, I can definitely get you in the low 5s if you want to pay a little bit of money. And honestly, if you can get a lock loan in the low 5s, I don't anticipate rates going below 5% in the next however many years. So if you have a 5.25 interest rate, you're looking pretty good. If you look at the 30 or the 25-year average, it's like 2000. You know, the average has been around 5%. So people always say, "Oh, my friend got 3%." That's cool. Your friend bought in COVID when there was 96 offers and $45,000 over ask.
Those
Right?
Josh, did you still have another question?
Those were the
I did have
days.
a question with going on the rates with the elections, and plus there's so much other uncertainty in the world with the Middle East, now oil and everything that going up
Mhm.
will also cause inflation, and then
All these things play a part for sure. The oil situation definitely will play a part in inflation specifically. And I've said it a million times as well. What drives interest rates? Inflation. Inflation. So I keep looking at Chrissy because I'm like, come on, you got something to do. But no, seriously, all jokes aside, rates go up, they go down. I preach it a million times. I preach it once. Affordability. Can you afford the payment that we're locking you in today? If the answer is yes, let's move forward. Ultimately, it's your rate. However you want to, we can float it if you want, but just know if we float it and we don't lock it in today, that if your payment goes up $36, don't yell at me because I only present you the options and you make the decision. So.
Great. thank you.
Stacy has a question. Stacy, go ahead and unmute. You got the floor.
Hi, guys.
Oh.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so, of course, with the rates the way they are, and of course, we feel possibly that within 5 years, we may be either where we are now or possibly lower. What do you think about a 5-1 arm?
I mean,
What
sure.
is a rate, like, what's the going rate on it right now?
I'm not sure. I personally haven't looked at arms ever in the last 3 to 4 years because they haven't been competitive at all. Because the rates were so low. And then, I think we had a client that did a 5-1 arm. I don't know, what was it, like a year ago because rates were 7%. I mean,
Okay.
like I said before, like I said at the last meeting, we have a client, we have an investor that is doing a lender paid buy down. If that's really what they were interested in doing, is get a lower rate for a certain period of time. But the 5-1 arm is, it's all relative. It's an adjustable rate mortgage. If I talk to 10 people, all 10 people would be like, I don't want anything to do with an adjustable rate mortgage because there's so many bad things that have been said about them out there. Because just imagine you do that adjustable rate mortgage and then inflation goes up and you're in 5 years from now and it's time for you to refinance and the rates are, I don't know, let's call them, they're 10%.
No,
There's-
I'm
there's
not
so much
talking about
uncertainty.
carrying out the term of a 5-year arm. I'm talking about like get yourself started and then possibly within, a year or two and you float till then you can either obviously refi, get another loan. But I just want to know like that, if that would be a possibility, if the rates were better than where they are at a 30-year to get someone in the door. And then also, is there any prepayment penalty to go on ahead and just refi and get rid of it within a year or two,
As far as the prepayment penalty, you have to talk to the investor or the lender directly on that because I can't speak for other investors and lenders on what they have,
Mhm.
No, I'm saying, my point is that I don't know because I don't do them. You want the
Right,
honest
right.
truth. Because they haven't been competitive. There hasn't even been a talk. Just like an FHA streamline has not been a talk for the last 2.5 years, but now it's come up to the point to where we're doing training on them. So that's my point is
Does your company not do arms at
I mean,
all?
sure,
just
they're not
do.
competitive though. They're not competitive. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Right.
They're not competitive.
Okay, no,
That's
I
why I'm saying
appreciate
I don't
that.
really do them.
Maybe check in with Bill and Jess too.
I had a client ask for a 5-1 arm
Mhm.
last month. The interest rate was 7.1 last month
Last month.
compared to 5.5.
I would ask a few others too, Stacy, just to.
Yeah, I've spoken with a couple and they are offering it and they're actually, they're actually no PMI even. So on a conventional 5-1. So I just wanted to see what your thought was in general. I know they did have a bad rap, obviously, for quite a while, but also with the interest rates, like I said, that I just didn't know if that was something that you'd worked with Austin and, would suggest it or not. That was
Is
it.
that less than 20% down, Stacy, on the no PMI?
It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get you more info. Yeah. And no, I appreciate it. I'm not trying to take business from you, Austin. I just wanted to know if you did, because I would certainly talk with you about it. But I appreciate your honesty about not really doing it. So
Yeah, no problem.
we'll
We
do
do-
others.
From the mortgage guy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. That
Yeah.
was it.
Okay,
So
no
we
problem.
we
Does
offer
anyone else have any questions?
we offer a multitude of products, as you may know. Obviously, the arms are not our forte because they're not really competitive. The people that are doing arms, or the banks that are doing arms, are like local credit unions. That's the ones that are doing them because they're housing them in house. They're very similar to, oh my gosh, I lost it. There was something else that they do. Oh, HELOCs. HELOCs is another one. Sure, I do them, but they're not as competitive as you go to a local credit union. That's the thing is I'm going to look out what's best for my clients. I treat my clients like friends and like family. If you are going to come to me to try and do your HELOC, sure, I'll price it out for you. But if I can get you a better deal at Old Point or at Bayport, people that I have personal relationships with, I'm going to send you to them. Because at the end of the day, would I rather you pay $500 a month or $425 a month? It's gonna benefit me at the end of the day, because hopefully when it's come to time to do your purchase or your friend's purchase or whatever, you say Creighton was super like on top of it and looked out for me. He didn't try to rip me off. So once again, I hope that answers your question.
I think it did. All right, well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anybody else?
All right, Sarah.
Boston Square.
Man, you gotta update that headshot.
Well, you're leaving me, so there's that.
There's that.
There's that.
We're gonna update it with Meredith's photo.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. Couple things just to think about on the insurance side of things. We are deep into hurricane season, as everybody knows. I know we don't have any like projected at this moment coming up the eastern seaboard, but just keep in mind when your clients put a contract in on the house, have them get their insurance as soon as possible. Don't wait around, because if a storm does start to come up the coast, insurance companies will put down that moratorium, and we're not able to bind any policies, even if they're like further out. They'll wait till they lift it, but if your buyer already has a policy in place, it won't be affected. So just keep that in mind. Always have the insurance done. It's usually pretty simple, unless the home is, right on the water. We're having to do some like searching for carriers, or like out in the boonies in a PC-10, which isn't really around here. But just don't wait around to the last minute. You can reach out to me and we'll get you connected with an agent. Also, in light of all of the storms, I can guarantee you that most of the homes in Western North Carolina did not have flood insurance.
Absolutely not.
And what really sucks is like no coverage. And I'm sure like FEMA and people are going to come in and provide some money, but for the most part, they do not have flood coverage. Their homeowners insurance does not cover that. You don't need to live by a huge body of water or on the ocean to be considered in a high risk flood zone. And just because you're in a low risk flood zone does not mean that you cannot be impacted by a flood. A third of all floods every year happen in low risk flood zones. That's that flood zone X. So we can set your buyer up with a flood insurance policy around $500 or less a year, just to cover them and give them peace of mind. So,
What company are you with again?
sorry, Evertree Insurance.
Evertree.
Yes. I need to send a new logo. We used to be Prosper Insurance and then we merged. So now we're Evertree Insurance. Yeah. So have your buyers get the insurance looked at quickly. We're always going to talk to them about flood insurance, but it's also really great to hear from the realtor, like, yeah, you're in a low risk flood zone. You can get flood insurance if you want. If they're not in a high risk flood zone, it's not going to impact their debt to income ratio with the mortgage. So it wouldn't be included into that with like Cragen or any of the lenders that you all work with. They'd be paying for it out of pocket. So that way it doesn't impact the actual closing and the numbers. That's really all I have. Do y'all have any questions
We
regarding
have a new rep.
insurance? We do. Oh, yeah. Sorry. You're going to meet her. She's going to be here at 11 for the pop by workshop. So stick around. We've got some fun fall pop buys for you all to make to your clients to go and hand out for Halloween/fall Thanksgiving. Her name is Meredith McCarthy. She has been in the business just as long as I have, so over 5.5 years, and I'm really excited to have her on my team. She comes with an insurance background plus business development, and I know you all will love her. I love her. Christine Thomasina met her. I think they love her. So really excited for you all to meet her when she gets here this morning. And
Yeah, that'll be right after you guys can.
yeah, right after. Any other?
As always, they're free.
Yes, free. Any other insurance
It
questions for
doesn't
me?
cost to bind, right? Like if they bind coverage earlier in the contract. and it
Nope.
Turns out they never close. It's not like. they
Nope.
come out of pocket or
Yep,
whatever.
so we'll just cancel the policy if the contract gets canceled and they don't have to pay anything. So
Right,
it's
no risk,
like
zero risk.
zero risk.
Is there a credit pull? No, when to do the, okay, so to
Yeah.
bind, there is a small credit pull.
So which it's a very soft pull.
Okay.
Now, some insurance companies don't always look at the credit. The credit has something to do with it, but it's also like insurance tiered, so like claims history and that has to do with it
It
as
won't
well.
affect the. what
No.
the mortgage is.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, pull the
No.
blue.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Sarah's heading to New York, so she's gonna head out.
Next week.
Yeah, she got a promotion, so congratulations to Sarah on her promotion. Yes, Craig.
New York City,
I wanted to mention one thing about this too, I forgot.
Okay.
talk about a move.
I'm sponsoring
Change of lifestyle.
I'm sponsoring a boat giveaway or a boat raffle. It's $50 for each raffle ticket. If you go on lancetmarine.com, you can buy a raffle ticket. They're $50, or you can scan this QR code. And it's for Casting for a Cause charity. Basically, it's for children with cancer, things of that sort. But I'm friends with the owner of Lancet Marine, and he's literally donating the whole boat as part of the raffle.
That's nice.
And then there's a ton of really great sponsors like Chesapeake or Great Bridge Pizza and Commonwealth Window Tent and a bunch of other great local businesses. So, but yeah, I shot a video with them yesterday, and if you want any more information, feel free. But it's like a really nice skiff. I don't know
You'll
how
put it
much.
on Facebook?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry.
All right, Tina,
Yeah, if you win
are you on here?
Yeah, if you win the boat, that's what it is. A $50 raffle.
Whoops,
Tina.
I am
Okay,
on.
go
Can you hear
ahead.
me?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to talk real quick about what we have seen in the last 10 days. If you are representing a buyer and you have asked for the seller to provide a home warranty, please, please, please make sure that it's ordered prior to closing. And I say that because we've had 4 instances in the last 7 days where the buyer's agent has called us after closing. The seller was supposed to provide a home warranty. It was never ordered, so it was never paid for, and they want to know what they can do. On our end, we can't do anything. We can order a policy, but we can't make a seller pay. Okay, so super important. If you're asking for warranties, that you make sure it gets ordered. Don't rely on the other side. But also on that, if you're a listing agent and it's been negotiated into the contract that your seller is providing a home warranty for the buyer, and you want to ensure that it's the correct policy and the correct amount, be sure you're ordering it and making sure that once it's ordered, that it's sent to all sides so it can be checked. Because I've got another instance where the listing side ordered it, the buyer side also ordered it, but that ordered a higher plan. The higher plan got paid out, and now there's a dispute. The CHOSA can't get in we can't do anything. Once it's done, the invoice has been sent and it's been paid. We don't have a way to go back to a buyer or a seller to collect or refund. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, check your Altas too, guys. So like if the seller was paying $500 for the warranty and the Alta says 800, there's obviously a discrepancy, right? Like stop it right then and there. Make sure you check your Alta. That should be on the Alta wholeheartedly.
That and then again, the whole thing of, we talk about the importance of making sure the warranties are set up at closing. If you know your client's supposed to have one, make sure we get it ordered, because again, we can place the order 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks after closing. If something has happened, that item's not eligible for coverage because it's not on the Alta. If it's on the Alta and we just didn't get payment, check was lost or whatever, that's different. But if it's not on the Alta at all because it was never ordered, we can't cover that known pre-existing issue. And we also can't go to the seller and say, hey, you need to pay for this.
I think it sounds like it's all on the buyer's agent to make sure that their client is taken care of by you ordering.
It is, but it's also on the selling side. If they're only authorizing 500, then 700 ends up going on the Alta.
Well, again,
Because
that
the
falls
buyer-
into why is there a misunderstanding?
No,
The buyer's agent should know.
Buyer agent.
Should, yeah, but if the buyer's agent wants to put 800 on there because they want a better policy for their client and the selling side doesn't see it,
I mean, initially, isn't that clarified when you make?
everything's
payment?
clarified,
Say, I want it to
absolutely.
less.
But doesn't mean that the buy side's gonna do the right thing if we're the sell side.
Always remember.
That's
Yeah,
why
and
you
Stacy
always
just
have to
made a
have
good
it.
point.
Cover your butt.
I make sure I'm
Stacy-
explicit, what we want.
Well, and that's
from
why
this company.
that's why I have that language for you in the other provisions, is this warranty from this company at this price.
Yeah, exactly. Explicit.
Yeah, we
You
do.
don't have that.
But you do. So here's the thing, here's the problem. If we're representing the seller, We've agreed to it, and the buy side still sends in for it to be 800 instead of 500 on there.
And they get away, they're trying to pull a
They're
snake.
trying to pull a fast one. Yeah, it's not okay.
No.
So no matter what, I don't care what side you're on, check your Alta just to make sure
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
correct. Yeah. Yes.
So if the.
Stacy made a good point. She said, state in the contract the maximum amount contributed by seller. Because if you just put 1 year home warranty,
You're gonna have to go against the other side. Close is closed, right?
Okay, but even.
But
if
you
the
gotta go
contract
against the
is
other side.
500,
Yeah, even if, and they put 800 and our side misses it,
Then it's.
there's
still-
nothing that we can do as a real estate company. There's nothing that Etosa could do as a warranty company.
Something we can do.
There is something, yeah, exactly. There is something that your closing company can do. There is something that Austin can do. If Jones Walker and Lake is the one representing you, you better hope and pray to God they are, because I'll tell you what, no, I'm gonna tell you something right now. If they're not, those other people out there are not gonna do a darn thing for you. I've seen it happen in the last 24 months.
Wow.
So,
So if that's the case, the buyers need to pony up the
you
extra
got it.
300,
That's right,
whatever.
and that's when
to
Austin,
make the
that's when
difference.
Austin goes
They're
around
insisting on
and
that.
type, and he says, this is in the contract, you had no right to do blah, 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 blue, blue, blue.
If I'm on the listing side, I'm like, and they ask for a warranty of this value, I'm like, send me a copy of exactly what you want with
Right.
the reps
Yeah,
number.
agreed. But I'm just saying, you better hope to God they are representing you in that
And
form.
send it to me.
I mean, it's a shame, but absolutely. All right, Tina, did you have anything else?
no, if there's ever questions and you just call us, we answer our phone nights and weekends. You're negotiating, you're not sure. Stacy did make a good point that, the contract makes sure there's a maximum amount contributed. I have seen contracts where a buyer's agent writes in there, seller to provide a 1 year home warranty of buyer's choice. And there's no cap. And guess what the buyer side does? They order the top plan. And then the seller side is like, wait a second. And I'm like, what they're saying, if there's no cap, right? So just be diligent, just be diligent. That's all I'm gonna say.
It falls into something that we all learned in law class at some point in our career, of being explicit with your desires in a contract when you're writing it, whether it be a PICRA or insurance or
Oh, yeah.
whatever it is.
Mhm.
Just, here's what I want,
Mhm.
qualified depot contractor to do this work and provide, you gotta be explicit.
Yeah, I love Austin's like, there's something I could do about it. Austin's got the fire under him. Oh, don't you dare! Don't you dare!
No, you didn't.
He's all mad. With that, I do want to say really quickly, first of all, thank you, Tina. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
course.
Thank you. You all are coming down to the wire. So those of you that have not tested, there's only a handful of you left. You're coming down to the wire. I am going out of town for conference. So I leave and I'm not here until Monday again. Make sure you get with one of the collaborators to test out if you need to this week, and hopefully they have that available. They're also busy. You guys were supposed to schedule that ahead of time. The 15th is coming in hot and fast. But if you have not scheduled it, make sure you get with them. As of the 15th, we do have to shut that broker man off if you have not tested out. So don't forget to do that. Then on top of that, I also need for you all to make sure that you take your ethics class. So remember, every 3 years you have to take it. I sent out the link. You can do it online, so you do not have to go in to Hurrah to do it. I know Hurrah's trying to get y'all to go in, which is great, but I sent you the link. You can do it from home.
It's so easy.
Jimmy Ray, look, hold up that beautiful thing. Look, Jimmy Ray did it. He got a wonderful certificate.
Let me just
Super
prep you.
easy.
Let me just prep you that they have not updated that course to coincide with.
They have not.
summer. It still covers shared compensation,
Yep.
all this stuff. Just push the I believe button and get it done.
Yep, and then
We'll
just,
say this, I did learn something about procuring costs.
Yeah.
Because before, I think when we were at Kanzel, the premise was, if we show the property, then that's our girl.
no,
If she closes it.
that is not, and it wasn't there either.
Well.
What it
that was
is whoever gets the ball rolling, whoever has the initiative to get the ball rolling. So whoever started that with them, that actually got the ball rolling to
But
make it
carries
go in.
it through to closing and does all their duties, because in this training last night, it was talking about you know, if, you know, it's different scenarios, but if you just showed the property and then somebody else was their representative and closed the property, they got the commission.
Depending on what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
depending on what
it's-
happened, but it's not always all the way through. They're just telling you how to be ethical, not what's gonna win in court.
It seemed like what they were saying was it had to be carried through to close.
It does
in
not.
order for there to be procurement.
It does not.
How not to be ashamed.
But to be ethical, it does. Remember, you're taking an ethics class, not how to win the procuring cost, but how to be ethical through a procuring cost,
Well, I
right?
am now officially ethical.
I appreciate it. It took you long enough, Jimmy Ray.
I know.
It sure as heck took
I'm
you
always
long enough.
behind the 8 ball with
Now
that.
you have a certificate with it. All right, Lucy, it's time for you. Lucy's love notes. Come on up. Lucy's love notes.
Anybody have any questions about what you've been dealing with the new forms and the new processes and the new thoughts? Govern yourself accordingly. My big beef with everybody right now is turning in listings with no tax records. I'm having to text and email just about everybody who's turning in a listing, asking for a tax record. I'm not gonna review the first document. I am gonna send the whole thing back to you. And when
Always gonna require.
your listing does not go live on the date that you want it to go live, it's not on me. And it's not on Caitlin. We're not listing a property unless we can prove when it was built and who the owner is. And if the owner is an LLC and I don't have LLC documents, you're also gonna be delayed. So you can't tell me you haven't been talking to these people for months, days, weeks, years, whatever it is, to be able to have the knowledge and get the information. So that's my big walks, love note, yeah, love note. I'm not loving it.
Tough love note.
Well, because look, it delays your transaction, it wastes my time. There are far more of you than there are of me. And when I have to double, triple check a single transaction, it takes me out of dealing with something else that somebody else may have a big brush fire going with. So you're gonna get brushed aside for the fire party. So just know, I'm taking my marshmallows over there. I'm
She's like
taking
the
my
fire
marshmallows
party.
over there,
The fire
and
party.
you all can just,
That's all right.
so, yeah. So any other questions, anything else anybody's noticing, needing, wanting?
Anybody online? No.
Okay,
Thank you.
rant over.
Definitely need to be there. Oh, yeah. Okay. So admin agenda. She just texted me to make sure that I talked about this. The referral paperwork. So you need to make sure that you do it correctly, but you also need to label it in the system. A lot of you don't know the property or anything like that, but label it by the person's name. I would even go as far as putting the company in there in that name that you're referring out to, so that we can find it when it comes in. Even maybe the agent's name, attach it as a contact in there so that we can find it, because we're getting these in and we can't match them up and we can't figure out whose referral it is. So it has to be done, and then make sure you have the correct checklist. So there's a checklist that says we're sending it out to another company. There's a checklist that says we're sending out to an agent in here. And then there's one saying we're getting it in. We're getting it in. So just make sure you have the right checklist in there, that you're able to, get that done. And that was the admin agenda. And then we had that turned up a little bit.
System sounds great. I mean, with the internet talking to it sounds good.
Bill wasn't here today, neither was Jess. Hopefully Jess gonna have that baby. I do have yeah, so I got that going. And then our fall festival is on the 16th, so it's next week. Next week, our fall festival, y'all should be getting calls and everything, and I need to have, who's going to have houses, I need to have that by Sunday. I know she's going to the fall festival.
Gingerbread house.
Hey, round of applause for everybody under contract. Congratulations. Got a lot going on last month. And then our top agents. Just Tan, going to action. And then we have Esmeralda, closing agent, volume into action. And then we have Nikki and Renee for the closing team, and a listing team, volume and transactions. Congratulations, guys. $1 Million Club, Renee, Nikita Hall. And Esmeralda. Then we have our cappers, so Nikita Holmes and Samantha both capped. And then we have work anniversaries. 4 years, 5 years. I think Sam's been here 5 years, right? Aruna, 6 years. Round of applause for that, for all of our work anniversaries. And then Rebecca Sloan had not one, but 3 client testimonials, guys. Round of applause for her. Great job, Rebecca. And then we should have our birthdays. Yep. So happy birthday, Jenny, Jimmy Ray, Sarah, Mary Frances, and Jed. Happy birthday to those birthday faces. And that is all. So, I want to say this though. You guys have been so great through all of this up and down with the NAR settlement and everything that's been going on. I mean, you guys have been really stellar. You've been coming to the classes. We've had a lot more people coming in, which is great, so that I know that you guys know what's going on. The ones that don't come in, I'm a little bit terrified as to what's going on out there. Again, thank you all for the ones who have. We got 85% of you tested. It's the other 15% we got to get in here. So thank you to all of you that have tested. Everybody in this room is tested, which is great. The ones that haven't, again, get with your collaborators or get on my calendar for next week. Just because on the 15th, the brokerment will be paused for you doesn't mean you still can't come in and do it and then get unpaused. But you have this for the collaborators. As far as the collaborators, you have Chrissy Hall, Chrissy Hagler, Tanya Kovac, and then Nikki Shonda Romani is going to also help out as well. I haven't helped Rebecca, so I don't want to put her name out there, but I do know those 4 will help out testing 100%. We also have Sam and Rebecca, but I haven't talked to them about testing, but these 4 will definitely help out. So get with them while I'm gone. If not, get with on my calendar. You guys all have my Calendly. And let's just close in prayer, and that's that. Lord, thank you so much for this wonderful group of agents. I pray for them every day, and I know that you are with them, and I know this change is hard, but it is something that we have already conquered, I feel. And it's because of you. And this business is always given to you. We always will give it to you. It is with the biggest heart that I have that I say thank you. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for bringing me these wonderful agents. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, that's it. Everyone online, we will see you hopefully at the Fall Festival, which is next week on the 16th, 5 to 7. We're going to have the decorating. The collaborators will be reaching out to you to see if you want to do. We have 20 houses, so the first 19 houses, the first 19 get it. We also have face painting. We're going to have a big blow up in the field out here for the kiddos. We're going to be playing Nightmare Before Christmas. We're going to have it projected. We're going to have pictures. There's going to be pumpkin decorating. We're going to have a chili cook-off. Like, there's so much going on. You'll hear from them. They'll tell you more about it, but hopefully you can be here. Go to our Facebook page and make sure you RSVP. You're allowed to bring a significant other or a +1. And also the children are all welcome. This is a big kiddo one. We're going to have contests for costumes for kids and adults. So there's going to be prizes for those too. So hopefully we'll see you all there, and I will talk to you all next week. Bye.
Everybody in the room, make sure Thomasina gets your pieces of paper for Cindy.
Yes. Actually, can you give them to Caitlin, if you don't mind?